We may have just seen the birth of DeFi on Cardano. We all know that every parent thinks their baby is beautiful, but that's just an evolutionary mechanism. In reality, some of those parents, they're lying to themselves, and there are ugly babies. This is Cardano, so we need to ask ourselves, is this an ugly baby? Ready? Let's go. 2 videos ago, we talked about the community not being timid when it comes to scrutinizing new projects. We're going to do that. We're also going to talk about game theory and contention in extended unspent transaction output, decentralized finance. Just like we could have a discussion about the technical aspects of a Tesla, we're going to be talking about technical and other aspects of various DeFi projects in Cardano. And just like that discussion, you can talk about Tesla vehicles without it being a discussion about whether or not anybody should be buying Tesla stock. This is not going to be a discussion about buying anything from these projects or investing in them or buying their tokens or anything like that. This is not an investment discussion. We're just going to have a discussion about the technical and other aspects of these projects. So here's the post where MuesliSwap announced that they were live on Cardano mainnet, and it seemed like not a lot of people knew about MuesliSwap. Here you can see the first response is, "This is the first time I've heard of your protocol." So it's a little bit of a surprise. I think we've heard about quite a number of DEXs that we're planning on launching on Cardano, but I don't think there was a lot of information out there about this particular DEX. The first order of inquiry for most people was probably the same as it was for me. That's to go to their website, MuesliSwap.com. When you land at their website, you find this, and you immediately realize, oh, okay. They've been doing something on Bitcoin Cash. They've got a Cardano button here, but before the Cardano button, they've got a Bitcoin Cash button, and they call themselves a decentralized exchange for Cardano and Smart BCH. What is Smart BCH? We know BCH is Bitcoin Cash, but they say the DEX for Bitcoin Cash built using the Uniswap v2 protocol. Okay, I think most people tend to think of Uniswap as an Ethereum thing, but obviously they've used the Uniswap protocol and they've built something to trade BCH. So if we go down here a little bit further, what do we see? Oh, wait, what is this? ADA Milk and BCH Milk governance tokens. Okay. So they are definitely trying to sell something to the Cardano community. So right now we need to kind of ramp it up and have a heightened level of scrutiny. They're selling something. That means people will be sending their precious ADA, and it could be a lobster trap. Anytime you're sending your ADA anywhere, it could be a lobster trap. So we need to engage in a heightened level of scrutiny. It could be this is all on the up and up, everything's cool, but the second you're sending your ADA anywhere, it's no longer in your custody. It's a heightened, it could be a lobster trap. So we have to go to a heightened level of scrutiny. In fact, in this case, you're actually purchasing tokens from them. Looks like tokens they've created, the 2 different types of milk tokens. And this is something they're obviously doing with BCH as well. So potential lobster trap, heightened level of scrutiny, no question. So we need to ask ourselves maybe the first most important question: who is the team? Who is the team if we're if there's a potential lobster trap, if there's a possibility of this ADA all disappearing? So we go here, and there is indeed a team page. But look, we get here: Chris, Matt, Max, Nicholas, David, Martin, Tim. These are definitely just first names and just drawings. So based on this, they say there's 6 people, but this is just a website. Pretty much anybody can make a website, and little graphics like this aren't exactly proof of anything. They say there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people counting the marketing guy, but we don't really know. Maybe there's one guy. Maybe this is all just one guy. We have no idea. Like I said, could all be on the up and up, but this could just be one guy and an elaborate lobster trap. You have to ask yourself, if I were setting up a lobster trap, like a rug pull, if I were setting up a rug pull, what would I do? What would it look like? Would it look any different than this? Basing the team in Switzerland sounds great. Everybody knows Swiss craftsmanship is great. Swiss watches, it's great. They're great. They're great at building things. And you could even give it a very European name. You could call it MuesliSwap. consumers in places like North America are familiar with muesli. They know it's European from breakfast cereals. This all sounds very European and wonderful. So this would be a great way to set it up. Even if you're just a single dude hanging out in North America who has nothing to do with Switzerland or Europe, this would be a great. If I were setting up a rug pull, this would be a great way to set up a rug pull. Again, not saying that's the case here. Maybe everything's totally on the up and up, and this will become the greatest DEX in Cardano, and everything's cool. Maybe these guys are just worried about regulators. Maybe they're worried about somebody kidnapping them and trying to exploit the DEX through threatening their personal safety or something like that. We don't know. It could be these guys are totally on the up and up. These are all real people, and they've created a fantastic DEX. We don't really know, but we do know that there don't seem to be any repercussions if this were a rug pull. If everybody threw their money in at these milk tokens, and then all of a sudden this website just disappeared, and people were left holding the milk tokens, and all the ADA disappeared, you have to ask yourself, what would be the repercussions? And you can imagine that maybe somehow law enforcement would be able to figure out who was actually behind this website and who actually received the ADA. But we have seen this happen over and over again on the Ethereum side. And every single time, the people who gave their ADA to the perpetrators said, I should have known that the anonymous dev team was a red flag. I shouldn't have sent my ADA. The anonymous dev team was always a crucial ingredient in these types. But this is a very different circumstance than some of the other dexes we have in the Cardano ecosystem. Think about Sunday Swap. Pi Lanningham, dude has like purple hair. Pi Lanningham can't exactly hide in a crowd with the purple hair. If Sunday Swap were to perpetrate some kind of a rug pull, Pi Lanningham's got to worry about some dude finding him with his purple hair and doing some Jack Bauer stuff to him until he gives back the ADA. Like, that dude is probably not planning on hiding anywhere with his purple hair. But if your name is really James and all people have to go on is this little graphic and this name Chris, you have a much better chance of hiding and not being found than a Pi Lanningham with purple hair. Of course, I am not the first person to worry about this. Here's a post from Adawell. He says, let me teach you a little something about crypto. If a team page looks like either this or this, you want to stay away. So, and he posts what appears to be the team page from Muesli Swap. And he's also worried about a different kind of risk. And that's this kind of page, the page where you do have real humans, but it just seems unlikely. He kind of sums it all up by saying, your father is not building an NFT marketplace in his suit, okay? There are also these team pages that have real humans, but they seem kind of unlikely. We've all seen the meme, I think, where the same picture of a guy with like just 6 different haircuts appears to be every single position in the company. So this could also be a team page with actual humans, could also be indicative of some kind of a dangerous project. But we actually don't know at this point. Maybe it's all in the up and up, and they're just scared of regulators and, who knows, people coming in, kidnapping them if their identities are known. Who knows? We don't know at this point. So let's go to their white paper and see what they've actually got going on. The white paper largely discusses how to approach order matching in markets. And I'm paraphrasing here, and this is all my understanding of what they're doing. So don't get too mad if I'm putting words in their mouth, because I'm definitely putting words in their mouth. But they say, we're going to have off-chain order matching. And the way that's going to work is explained down here. They say, hey, we're going to have 2 orders. One person wants to trade token A for token B. And these little parentheticals kind of explain all this. Token A for token B in N1 quantity at P1 price and F1 transaction fees. We're going to try to match that to order 2, which is kind of doing the reverse, right? They have token B. They want to trade that for token A in N quantity, N2 quantity, P2 price, and F2 transaction fees. So what they need to check to validate that these 2 are a good match is that the transaction fees on both sides suffice to cover the necessary fees, and that the price sought by order 1 is greater than or equal to 1 over the price sought by person 2. Why is that? That's because if the going price for token A to trade into token B is that you get 2 tokens B for 1 token A, then the price for the first person, if he's seeking to go from A to B, is 2. He's going to get 2 Bs for his A. But the other person, their price, if they're going from B to A, would be 1 over 2. They get 0.5 A's for their B. So that's why we have an inverse here. P1 has to be greater than or equal to the inverse of P2. So then they talk about problems with this offline matchmaker, because we've talked in the past about how there are basically 2 big approaches to matchmaking in E that we've seen, at least. I'm sure people are going to invent new approaches, but we've seen 2 big approaches. And that's that you can either have distributed UTXOs, and we've seen examples of this. I think the development team at Meld was the first one to lay out sort of their approach to distributed UTXOs. And we covered that on the channel. And other dexes have laid out, very big, comprehensive, long explanations of exactly how their dex is going to work with distributed UTXOs. And this other approach is this off-chain, some would call centralized approach to order book matchmaking. The off-chain approach, as opposed to the distributed UTXO approach, is problematic because it's centralized. If you have an off-chain matchmaker, that matchmaker, if it's a matchmaker, it's centralized, and you have to worry about them engaging in malicious behavior. So here they talk about 2 different types of malicious behavior. One is matching you to a price, to another order, and there being a price mismatch, which favors the other trader. Like maybe the matchmaker will maliciously favor other traders. They say that can't happen in their system because the matchmaker actually keeps the difference in prices. So he can't really favor the other trader because the matchmaker himself is going to keep the difference in prices. And of course, this is also how they incentivize the matchmaker to do the matchmaking. The other type of malicious behavior the matchmaker can engage in is just not matching you. They can maliciously not match you and match other traders. So they say the way they solve this centralization problem with the matchmaker, of course, is to decentralize it, have multiple matchmakers. And we'll talk about some of the game theory issues with the multiple matchmakers in a second. But first, I think it's important to point out, from everything I've read, it looks like that's down the road. Multiple matchmakers is down the road. Initially, it's just going to be them. It's just going to be MuesliSwap doing the matchmaking. So if we go back to what they described, that the matchmaker favoring another trader by creating mismatches in price, let's say, matching you with the most highly, the other order that's going to cost you the very most, as opposed to one that would have been much cheaper for you. The way they say they're going to solve that is by just making sure any buyer seller price difference is awarded to the matchmaker. But if they're the matchmaker, I mean, it could be I'm getting this wrong, but it seems like if they're the matchmaker, then, and there is no multiple matchmaker situation at the beginning, then that problem comes right back, because they're going to have an incentive to mismatch you to the greatest buyer seller price difference, so that, because they're going to keep that difference, right? So you could argue, no, that's actually not true, because they have an incentive to make as many matches as possible. So in order to do that, they're going to have to minimize buyer seller price differences. I don't know how that's going to work out, but it's unclear to me, which is a little bit problematic in my mind. When they talk about the multiple matchmaker situation, that's down the road, then we get into what they call problems 2 and 3. Problem 2 is that there will be contention around best prices. So if the matchmakers get paid any price difference between the 2 orders, then they're going to want to go for the order matching that has the biggest price difference, right? They're going to want to do that first. Like, let's grab the biggest price difference first because that's how we get paid. If all of the various matchmakers in this multiple matchmaking scenario do that, then they're going to overlap because they're all going to go for the same one, and their transactions are going to fail because that particular match, that UTXO will already have been consumed by whoever did it first, so they'll all start failing. So that's problem number 2 around contention with best prices. There's also problem number 3, and this is that the matchmakers get paid the difference in price, and they're going to want to do as many they're going to want to bundle as many transactions into one batch as possible so they can maximize the number of matches they're making and get paid the most again. So they're going to want to batch a lot of different transactions together. Again, we're going to have overlap. Just like in the first scenario, they're all going to go for that highest price difference reward, and all the transactions are going to fail except for the first one. If they're all batching, their batches are going to overlap and they're all going to fail. So you're going to have, a slowdown of everything due to contention because they're all batching. They're all trying to batch as many transactions as possible together, which is going to maximize the chances for overlap and failed transactions. So they say their solution to problems 2 and 3 comes to us from game theory. Here they're going to reference a story sort of related to John Nash. And to be fair to the team, they say this story may be apocryphal. But this is a story that popped up in the movie A Beautiful Mind with Russell Crowe about John Nash. Basically, it goes like this. So John Nash and his buddies from Princeton go into a bar. A hot girl and her slightly less hot friends all walk into the bar. John Nash tells his friends, "Hey, I know you guys are thinking Adam Smith, hidden hand. If we all go for the hottest girl, the hidden hand of the market will guide the right person. The right person will be able to walk out of here with the hottest girl." He says, "Actually, Adam Smith was wrong. The way this is going to work is you're all going to go hit on the hot girl. You're all going to fail because there's too many of you hitting on her. Then you're going to move on to her less hot friends, and all of her less hot friends are going to be pissed because they were second choice. So what you should all do is cooperate together. Nobody hits on the hottest girl. You all go hit on her less hot friends. And then through this cooperation, you will all be successful. Whereas if you all hit on the hot one, nobody's successful." So I really appreciate that the team here did not try to throw the buzz term Nash equilibrium on this. You hear people talk about Nash equilibriums a lot in crypto, and there's a reason why not every game theoretic optimal situation is a Nash equilibrium. So we see here on Wikipedia, a Nash equilibrium is one where each player is assumed to know the equilibrium strategies of the other players, and no player has anything to gain by changing only their own strategy. So another way to say this might be to say that even when all the players see the outcome after they've all made their choices, they realize that they wouldn't change the outcome they chose. The outcome they chose, if they're in a Nash equilibrium, the outcome they chose wouldn't change once they see everybody else's choices. This works in non-cooperative games like Prisoner's Dilemma. I'm no expert on game theory, but I do remember game theory popping up at university, and the way I was introduced to game theory was with the Prisoner's Dilemma. This is the idea that you have two prisoners, each sitting in their jail cells, and the authorities come to talk to them, and the authorities are like, "Hey, you can either betray your co-criminal over there in the other cell, or you guys can remain silent." As this little diagram over here explains, the only situation where neither one would have changed their decision is where they both confess, they both betray the other person, which is a little bit counterintuitive because if they both cooperated with each other and remained silent, they only each get one unit of utility. That's less than the 2 units of utility when they both confess. If one betrays the other and the other stays silent, then one person gets off scot-free. That's the 3 over here. They get off the most utility because they get to go free, and the other person gets a really long jail sentence. And so obviously the person who remained silent would have changed their decisions. That's not the Nash equilibrium position. This one, where they both remain silent, is also not the Nash equilibrium position. The idea is like the DA would have gone harder on both of them because they didn't confess. In the situation where they both confess, though, they got the highest utility where neither person would have changed their decision, right? Over here, one person would have confessed because then it would have pushed them down into this one where they get to go free because the other person remained silent. And in either one of these two, the person who got the 0, that's the long jail sentence, obviously they would have also confessed to push themselves over here too. So this position where they both confess is the only one where neither one would have changed their decision after they saw the outcome. Again, the team here is not describing this scenario in the bar as a Nash equilibrium, which I really appreciate because people love to throw around that buzz term even if it doesn't apply. Because obviously, if none of John Nash's friends go after the hottest girl and they all go after the less hot girls, then each one of them, once they saw the outcome, would have realized that they would have changed their decision. It would have been better for them to go for the hot girl because all of their friends went for the less hot girls. And one of them going after the hot girl could be successful in this little scenario. But so the team here is not saying that's Nash equilibrium, and I think it's not. I agree that it's not. And it looks like commentators online also agree that the situation in the movie is not actually a Nash equilibrium, even though it's largely been labeled as one. So the interesting thing, and the reason we're talking about this, is that the team here does kind of offer this bar cooperation scenario as an answer to the problem with the matchmakers all going for the matching with the highest price difference or all creating the biggest batches of orders. So it's kind of like going after the hottest girl, right? I apologize for people of the opposite gender. I'm just using the same example in the movie here. But the thing is, this is also not a Nash equilibrium because you could say, sure, everybody will cooperate. But at the end of that, when they see the outcome, they realize if everybody cooperates and they don't go after the biggest batching of orders. They don't go after the biggest price difference. If they all cooperate, nobody goes after it. When they see the outcome, they're going to wish they had sort of betrayed all the other matchmakers and gone after the biggest batching, gone after the biggest price difference. So I'm not convinced when I think about this. I get their comparison to the scenario in the movie, but I also think the Nash equilibrium idea also tells me that if one person sort of betrays everyone else and goes after the hottest girl, that person is in the best situation. It's not actually a Nash equilibrium. The situation described by John Nash in the bar only works because there's social pressure that can be exerted by the group of friends. If if anybody goes after the hottest girl, then everybody can put social pressure on the person and say, hey, if we all did that, this would never work out. And so because there's going to be iterations and there's social connection between them, they can put pressure on each other. In this situation with the matchmakers, I don't know if it can be truly decentralized because you sort of need that social pressure in order to keep somebody from betraying everybody else when it's actually not a Nash equilibrium. Because as soon as people see the outcome, they're going to say, oh, right here it says, but what if no one goes for the best price, largest batch size? When people see the outcome, they're going to say, oh, it worked for everybody because no one went for the best price, the largest batch size. But they're going to say, because no one went for it, I should have gone for it. It's not actually a Nash equilibrium here. The problem is everything still works if you're the one person who betrays everybody else and goes for the best price and largest batch size. As long as there's no overlap, as long as you're the only one going for it, there's going to be a huge temptation to be that one person every iteration. Again, I'm no game theory expert. I could be completely wrong about this, but this is definitely an unresolved question in my head when I read this game theory discussion. Maybe someone with better knowledge of game theory or who has just thought about this more than I have can school me on the error in my ways. If you want to hear more about Nash equilibriums in crypto and specifically in Cardano, I would direct you to the Ouroboros paper As you can see, they announce right here on page 3, second to last paragraph, we present a novel reward mechanism for incentivizing the participants to the system, which we prove to be an approximate Nash equilibrium. All right. I hope you are having a great week, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.